If someone collapses in front of me, I want to be the kind of person who doesn't hesitate to help, especially if it's a child. One day, I helped a girl who collapsed in front of me, and because of that, I missed an important business meeting. I called the company to explain the situation. My boss, Kyle, said something utterly unacceptable, which made me angry. I openly objected, then it led to my dismissal. But the person who came to my aid in this situation was unexpected. My name is Ethan. I'm a 48-year-old salesman, dedicated to sales ever since I graduated from college. Though sales can be tough, I've always liked feeling helpful to others. I worked in sales for over 20 years at a small local electronics store in Nebraska, but it had to close due to aging and declining birth rates in the area. I'm truly sorry, everyone. Please forgive my incompetence. I'll do my best to find new job opportunities for you all. I couldn't blame Mr. Harrison, as he tearfully apologized to the staff. It's the changing times, and sometimes, no matter how hard you try in sales, it's not enough. Many customers expressed their regret about the store closing. Ethan, you've helped us with everything. It's sad that the store is closing, and I'll miss you too. I'm glad to hear that. I've always appreciated how much Grace cared for me since I started working here. I'll be sad to leave, but I'll do my best in a new place. I'll write to you. On the last day, I said goodbye to Grace, a loyal customer who had always been very kind to me. Grace was a refined lady who had always been very fond of me. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to it. Take care and work hard, but don't overdo it. I'd be happy if you could visit when you're back in town. Of course, I will. I'll let you know when I'm visiting. And so, I started a new chapter in my life. Being single, I just need to take care of myself. I gave the re-employment opportunity that Mr. Harrison found to a colleague with a family, and I moved to a neighboring town on my own. It's been about half a year since I started working at my current company. My previous company was very homely, with hardly any issues in human relations, but my current boss, Kyle, has been a source of stress. Hey, Ethan, when will you have the estimate ready? I'm sorry, Kyle. I got a call from a client and haven't started on it yet. I explained and apologized. Besides, there were still 4 days left until the deadline he had requested. There's still time until the deadline, and you said it wasn't urgent, so I prioritized a client's needs. Kyle seemed displeased with my addition. Even so, it's common sense to do the work you're asked to do quickly, right? And the client you're talking about doesn't even bring in much revenue. This is why I find Kyle stressful. He only sees customers in terms of money and changes his attitude based on how much they spend. I understand that a company is not a charity and needs sales to survive. But I can't imagine blatantly changing my attitude based on a customer's spending. Even so, they are important customers. Though their current spending may be small, they could become more significant in the future. If you can't understand which clients to prioritize, you're useless. Forget it. I'll have someone else do it. Kyle, red-faced with anger, demanded a female employee to take on the task. His request, delivered in a tone of rage, was hardly the way to ask for help. The woman, caught off guard, wore a look of panic. She must have been busy with some other work at the time. Kyle often imposes work regardless of other situations. I felt like I had unintentionally involved her in an accident and decided to apologize. During lunch, I approached the colleague, Emma, whom Kyle had burdened with the work. Emma, I'm sorry about earlier. You got dragged into this because of me. Oh, Ethan, no need to apologize, thank you. It's not your fault. Kyle is always like that, Emma said with a smile. We then decided to have lunch together. Kyle used to land big clients and got promoted to senior manager. He thinks he's good at his job, but actually, there have been quite a few complaints from clients and other departments. Emma informed me over dessert, something she heard from a colleague in another department. The truth is, even as a senior manager, he doesn't have that much power in the company. But I think people find him intimidating due to his usual domineering approach. Besides, like it or not, Kyle's assessment as our boss matters. That's why there's this atmosphere where it's hard to go against him. With his attitude, it's no surprise he gets complaints. It would be more surprising if he didn't, I remarked. Exactly. Kyle always sucks up to those higher up than him. Maybe that's why his behavior doesn't reach the top. It's a problematic situation. Emma and I sighed, encouraging each other to maintain a safe distance from Kyle and get through this. Then, one day, a company I had been handling approached me with a significant business deal. It was the same company Kyle had dismissed as not profitable. However, this time, the deal involved a substantial amount, and upon hearing this, Kyle, with a smirk, announced he would join the negotiations. Listen up, as your boss, I'll be there too. Make sure everything is prepared perfectly. This could be a big win for us. He was suddenly interested, even though he had previously said they weren't worth the effort. I was extremely annoyed by Kyle's about-face. Still, remembering the client's request for me, I tried to focus and shift my mindset. Emma helped me prepare the materials. Of course, Kyle did nothing. Just barking orders without lifting a finger. He would probably take the credit and report it happily to the higher-ups. Kyle had a history of stealing subordinates' achievements for himself. But believing someone was watching and appreciating my efforts, I had no choice but to do it. Finally, the day of the presentation arrived. I woke up early in the morning, prepared, and left the house 30 minutes earlier than usual. It was a pleasant day for a walk, not too hot, with a nice breeze. I decided to walk the distance of one bus stop. At the crosswalk, I waited for the red light to turn green. As I waited, I started walking as soon as it did. At that moment, a young elementary school girl walking ahead suddenly collapsed, as if crumpling to the ground. Shocked, I rushed to her side. "Hey, young lady, are you okay?" I called out, checking for a response. The girl was motionless, her face pale. I gently lifted her eyelid, apologizing, and side was completely white. She might have fainted. I looked at the signal, noticing the green light was flashing. Staying in the crosswalk was dangerous. I picked up the girl and carried her back to the sidewalk. "Are you okay? Can I help with anything?" A woman on her way to work offered assistance, and I thanked her as she helped me lay my jacket on the ground. I gently laid the girl on top of it. While I was considering whether to call an ambulance, the woman spoke to me. "This child seems to be prone to fainting. Look, there's information on the back of her charm." She showed me the back of a charm hanging around the girl's neck. It detailed the girl's condition, a plea for help if needed, and contact information for her mother and a mobile number. "That's true, thank you. I'll call her mom right away," I said. "Could I ask you to take over? I'm running late for work, I'm sorry." The woman who had helped with the first aid apologized, looking regretful. "It's fine, please go ahead. I really appreciate your help, thank you." While repeatedly expressing her gratitude, the woman hurried off towards the station, and I, looking at the girl's charm, called the mobile number listed under mother. After a few rings, a woman answered. "Hello, this is Jennifer speaking." "Hello, I'm sorry for calling out of the blue. My name is Ethan. I'm with your daughter, who seems to have fainted at the crosswalk." As I explained, Jennifer sounded panicked. "What, really, Ethan? Are you with her right now?" "Yes, there was another woman here just now, but I'm with her at the moment. Should I call an ambulance?" "I haven't called one yet because I wanted to speak with you first." I had debated whether to call an ambulance or her mother first, but decided to contact her mother initially. "No need for an ambulance, thank you. Where are you now?" "I think I'm not far from there. I'll come right away." I described the location to Jennifer. It seemed to be really close to their home. "I know where that is. I'll be right there. Can you please stay with my daughter a little longer?" I could hear the bustle as she prepared to leave. She sounded apologetic. "Of course, it's okay. Please take your time and be careful on your way here." She thanked me several times before we hung up. Sighing, I decided to call my office. Actually, I had left home early, but since I've been assisting the girl who collapsed, I've run out of time. Even if I hurry now, I won't make it to the office by the start of the workday. And it's likely that I won't make it in time for the presentation with the client either. "Hello, good morning. This is Ethan. Is Kyle there?" Emmy answered the phone. "Ethan, it's Emma." Kyle is furious. "Is something wrong? We usually would have been here by now. Everyone was worried when you didn't show up." I could hear voices in the background at the office, relieved to hear from me. While I felt guilty for causing worry and appreciated their concern, Kyle's voice thundered through the phone. "Ethan, is that you? Hand over the phone now. What are you thinking? Being late on the day of an important deal? Are you mocking your job?" Kyle's yelling continued over the phone. His voice was so loud that I instinctively pulled the receiver away from my ear. "Kyle, I'm terribly sorry. I'm not taking my job lightly, but a young girl just collapsed in front of me. It seems like she's fainted, and I'm staying with her right now." I briefly explained the situation, keeping it as simple as possible. "I've just contacted her mother, who is on her way here. Whether she's fainted or not, just leave her. The business deal is more important. Forget about the kid." His harsh words finally made me snap, having already been stressed by Kyle's behavior. "You know, there's a right and a wrong way to say things. A child has collapsed here. You have a child too, right? Could you say the same if it was your own child?" Startled by my firm tone, Kyle briefly fell silent. But true to form, he quickly recovered. He promptly began to retort in response. "You've got some nerve talking to your boss like that. I'll make sure you regret this." He then sneered maliciously. "I'll let the executive director, Mr. Anderson, know you've ruined the deal. You are causing damage to the company, so you are fired. Anyone who defies me or complains is fired. Got it? You're probably making excuses because you're not confident about the deal." His words were disjointed, but I understood I was being fired. My heart raced, not expecting to be fired in such a situation. Before I could respond, Kyle spoke again. "Scared now, can't even talk. Don't bother coming back. You're disqualified as a salesperson. You're fired, bye." Kyle hung up the phone with a loud laugh. I must have been a bit dazed, wondering what to do next. Suddenly, someone spoke from behind me, making me jump in surprise. "Excuse me, was today an important business meeting for you?" I turned to see a woman with a face as pale as a girl's. Engrossed in the call, I hadn't noticed her approach. She might have overheard Kyle's loud voice and the content of the conversation. Feeling awkward but deciding to be honest, I replied, "Did you hear that? I'm sorry you had to listen to such an embarrassing conversation. Yes, it was an important business meeting. I couldn't just ignore a child in need and go to a business meeting. I am truly sorry about that." I assured the woman, Jennifer, who looked like she was on the verge of tears as she expressed her gratitude. "It's really okay, Jennifer. Even if I had ignored the child who collapsed and gone to the meeting, and even if it had gone well, I wouldn't have felt good about it." While Jennifer and I were talking, the girl who fainted from anemia, Sophie, had already been taken to her mother's car. The driver, a burly man, moved swiftly and carefully, carrying Sophie with great care. "Don't worry about me at all. I'm single, and I don't squander my money on gambling or anything, so I have some savings to tide me over for a bit," I reassured her. "But still, Ethan, which company do you work for?" Jennifer asked, almost desperately. I handed her my business card. "ABC Trading. So you work here. I will definitely express my gratitude for saving my daughter." Jennifer expressed her gratitude repeatedly. Thank you, but please, take Sophie to the hospital. As for me, well, I guess I'll just slowly head home. I replied as I watched the car drive official. The car disappeared from sight, and I let out a small sigh before walking towards the station to return home. The next morning, I was awakened by the incessant ringing of my phone. Though I was awake, I was still half asleep. After all, I had drunk more than usual the night before, knowing I had been fired. While I'm not great with alcohol, the thought of not having to see Kyle's face anymore was somewhat refreshing. So, I had 2 bottles of beer and went to bed without setting an alarm, just wanting to sleep as much as I needed. Who could it be, calling a fired man like me? I wondered groggily, checking my phone's display. To my surprise, it was Kyle's name on the screen. Wondering what he could possibly want now, I felt annoyed and honestly, I found it a hassle to talk. Deciding to be true to my feelings, I ignored the call on my cell phone. Once the call ended, I quickly set my phone to silent and went to take a bath. After getting out of the bath, I checked my phone again and was surprised. I found about 30 missed calls from Kyle and around 20 from the office. My phone was almost out of charge, so I hurried to plug it in. The moment I picked it up, another call from Kyle came through, and this time I decided to answer, not wanting any more calls. I was done with the constant ringing. "Hello, what do you want with a fired man?" I answered, expecting it to be about some formalities. I thought Kyle would either yell or speak arrogantly. But his tone was different this time. "Ethan, I'm sorry to ask, but can you come to the office right now?" I was so surprised that I couldn't find my voice at first. Impatient with my silence, Kyle spoke faster. "Are you listening? If you can hear me, get to the office now." His usual attitude snapped me back to reality. "Is this about the paperwork?" Kyle seemed to explode in frustration. "No, the client you stood up yesterday is here at the office. They're saying they won't leave until they see you. Just come quickly." With that, he hung up. I genuinely felt sorry for having missed a business meeting yesterday. The fact that there were calls not just from Kyle, but also from the company, suggested that it had become a big issue at the office. With a sense of resolve, I got ready and decided to head to the company I had been fired from. As I was walking on the sidewalk, a sleek black luxury car smoothly pulled up beside me. "Ethan, thank goodness, I was afraid we'd miss each other. Please, get in." I turned in surprise to the voice calling my name and saw Jennifer from yesterday. "Jennifer, oh hello, what a surprise. How's Sophie doing?" I asked about Sophie, and Jennifer nodded happily, indicating she was doing well. "Yes, she's all better now. Oh, the light's changing. Please get in." "What? Get in? Into the car?" "Yes, come on, quickly." In a hurry, Jennifer urged me to get in, and I got into the back seat of the car. Since I was already in, I decided to ask her to drop me off at the nearest station. When I looked at the driver's seat, it was the same driver who had carried Sophie yesterday. Our eyes met in the rearview mirror, and as I nodded slightly in acknowledgement, the driver returned the gesture with a friendly smile. "Could you please drop me off at the nearest station? I'll take my leave from there." I apologize for getting in the car so suddenly. "Don't mention it. It was me who asked you to hurry. I'll take you to the office, don't worry." Her offer was very much appreciated. The morning had long passed, and it was getting warmer as noon approached. Riding in the air-conditioned luxury car to the somewhat distant office seemed like a good idea. I hesitated but decided to accept Jennifer's offer. "Then, if it's not too much trouble, may I take you up on that offer?" Jennifer looked very pleased with my response. "Of course." And so, I headed to the office in Jennifer's car. We talked about various things on the way. Jennifer shared that her husband was often busy with work, and she was mostly raising Sophie on her own. On the day Sophie collapsed, Jennifer had been worried about her health from the morning, But then she received a call that her grandmother wasn't feeling well. Then, when I called to tell my grandmother that Sophie had collapsed and I couldn't come, she actually scolded me. She said, as a mother, "Your child should always come first. You should go pick her up right away. It must be because your grandmother adores Sophie so much." Yes, she even started going to a gym nearby just to play with Sophie. Jennifer said, and I smiled, imagining the scene. Yet, as the company building came into view, my spirits sank. Unconsciously, I let out a sigh and then apologized to Jennifer. "Oh, I'm sorry. We were having such a pleasant conversation," I apologized. Jennifer just laughed and forgave my sudden change in mood. "Don't worry about it. It's understandable not to feel like going to the office the day after being fired, but it'll be all right," Jennifer reassured me. Her words struck a chord with me. What do you mean by it'll be all right?" I asked. Jennifer didn't answer, just smiled and encouraged me to get out of the car. "Let's go." Jennifer walked with me into the office, leaving me puzzled. As we entered, we saw Kyle with a pale face. He rushed towards me without even glancing at Jennifer. You did," Kyle exclaimed, grabbing my shoulder, but he was stopped by a sharp voice. "Stop that, what do you think you're doing?" a man in an expensive suit said. Behind him was our company president, Williams, looking equally pale. I was about to thank the man when Jennifer ran to him. "Dad, sorry for the wait. I've brought Ethan." "Oh, thank you." Jennifer's call of Dad left me wide-eyed, and then Williams approached me. "Ethan, this is Chairman Thompson of Thompson Industries, the client you missed the meeting with." I was stunned, looking at Chairman Thompson. "The chairman of Thompson Industries," I exclaimed. Just as I was about to apologize for missing the meeting, Chairman Thompson spoke. "Don't apologize to me, Ethan. It's us who should thank you for saving my granddaughter. Thank you so much." Jennifer expressed her gratitude alongside me. It was unbelievable that Jennifer was Mr. Thompson's daughter and Sophie was his granddaughter. Stunned by the revelation, I quickly came to my senses and addressed Mr. Thompson. "There's no need for that, sir. What I did was just a human response. However, I do regret not being able to attend a business meeting." Mr. Thompson, looking at me, had a gentle expression. "Sophie is my precious granddaughter, and I am always worried about her health. I am so grateful for your kindness in helping her." Though Mr. Thompson spoke kindly, his expression turned stern as he addressed Kyle. "My daughter called me in tears. After hearing about your harsh words towards Ethan, who helped Sophie, I was disgusted. You called him unfit as a salesman for missing the meeting, didn't you?" Under Mr. Thompson's sharp gaze, Kyle stood rigid and pale. Sweating profusely, he began to stammer out a response. It was an important meeting with Thompson Industries, and abandoning it seemed irresponsible. Really, and leaving a child who has collapsed is responsible as a human being, Mr. Thompson retorted, leaving Kyle speechless. If Ethan hadn't been there, Sophie could have been hit by a car or worse. Mr. Williams, the company president, started to apologize, his face pale as well. "I am truly sorry for this incident," Mr. Williams apologized earnestly. Mr. Thompson responded with an even more stern look. "Mr. Williams, this isn't just about my granddaughter's incident. Are you aware of how your employees behave towards clients?" "I'm not sure what you mean," Mr. Williams inquired in a weak voice. Sighing, Mr. Thompson continued. "It seems you're unaware of how poorly Kyle is perceived, not just at our company but at others too. I did some asking around after this incident." With a surprised expression, Mr. Williams looked at Kyle. I couldn't help but feel exasperated at Mr. Williams's reaction. Kyle was adept at ingratiating himself with those in higher positions. Mr. Williams, being one of them, probably had no idea about Kyle's true nature. Kyle seems to be rather full of himself, with his condescending speech and arrogant behavior. I didn't hear a single good thing about him. Kyle was trembling so much he looked as though he might collapse. "Kyle, what on earth were you thinking?" Mr. Williams scolded Kyle. However, it was Mr. Thompson who firmly interjected. "You're the president." Before getting angry at him, reflect on your own role as a leader. Mr. Williams shriveled. Seeing Mr. Williams's demeanor, Mr. Thompson sighed and spoke calmly. "I understand it's not usually appropriate to interfere in a client's personal matters. However, I must speak up this time. Mr. Williams, could you consider rescinding Ethan's termination?" "What?" I exclaimed in surprise. "Don't be surprised, Ethan. You're a well-regarded salesman, the complete opposite of Kyle. Everyone says you're always kind, smiling, and supportive." I felt tears welling up, moved by his words. I was overwhelmed with emotion and had to hold back tears. It was a genuinely happy moment for me. The fact that my efforts to help others had been recognized filled me with deep gratitude and joy. "You're a true salesman, and we want you to continue handling our account. You have a kind heart, and it would be a waste to lose you here, unlike someone else." At that, Kyle finally collapsed to his knees. Since we were talking at the company's entrance, I noticed a crowd had gathered around us. However, the fact that not a single person offered Kyle any assistance was a clear indication of his lack of popularity and respect among his colleagues. A few employees, prompted by Mr. Williams, helped Kyle up and led him away. "I'll take responsibility for this matter, Mr. Thompson. Ethan won't be fired, and I'll conduct a thorough investigation into Kyle's behavior," Mr. Williams promised. "Thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation." After the conversation at the entrance concluded, I went outside to see off Mr. Thompson and Jennifer. "Thank you so much, Mr. Thompson. You've been incredibly supportive. I believe Mr. Williams will handle things properly from now on, and the company will improve," I said, expressing my gratitude. Mr. Thompson patted my shoulder with a smile, encouraging me. As I said, "Ethan, you are a lifesaver for Sophie, my precious granddaughter. Whatever you need, I'm here to help." "Not just that, Ethan is an excellent salesman," Jennifer added. "My father also started as a salesman and worked his way up. He loves people who have the right spirit." Mr. Thompson smiled bashfully at Jennifer's words. Seeing their smiles, I couldn't help but smile myself. "Thank you. I'll continue to do my best, never giving up on being helpful in sales," I said. "Keep it up, Ethan. You can do it. If you ever have trouble, don't hesitate to contact me," Mr. Thompson encouraged. After shaking hands with Mr. Thompson, I watched as he and Jennifer left. Subsequently, a major personnel overhaul took place at the company. An investigation into Kyle's behavior was conducted, revealing many testimonies about him from within the company. Mr. Williams was reportedly shocked by the findings. Kyle's punishment resulted in his transfer to a smaller company within the corporate group. This transfer, being indefinite, meant he would remain there until his retirement. As Kyle packed his belongings, not a single person approached to speak to him. "Thank you for everything," he said in a quiet voice, his once confident demeanor gone. I later heard he had become much quieter and more subdued at his new posting. Afterward, Mr. Williams personally apologized to me, and I was promoted to a team leader position. Though my responsibilities and workload increased, I enjoyed my job in sales more than ever. "Ethan, there's a request from a client, but it's a bit difficult for me. Any ideas?" "Sure, let me take some time to look into it." With Kyle gone, everyone seems more vibrant and enthusiastic about their work. The atmosphere of constantly having to gauge someone's mood has completely disappeared. Previously, there wasn't a culture of openly discussing issues or collaboratively solving problems. Instead, it seemed like everyone was on edge. I appreciated this positive change. My connection with Mr. Thompson's continued, and I even had dinner with him, Jennifer, and a now recovered Sophie. Initially nervous, I was put at ease by Sophie's talkative nature and Mr. Thompson's gentle demeanor, very different from his business persona. This is all part of fate. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. As a salesman, you can grow even more. Keep solving our customers' problems. Mr. Thompson's words became like a talisman to me. I resolved to become even more helpful to others. No matter the hardships or challenges, I knew there were people who believed in me. Therefore, I'll continue to walk the right path as a person. Keeping that sentiment in mind, I will carry on with my work in the future. I will carry on with my job, the sales work I love so much.